What the city is talking about.
The news that impacts you.
Welcome to the Montreal Now Podcast.
Gotta love this story. I know our producer did. Alice said, you gotta do this story, I think it's actually pretty cool. So imagine a young man, his grandmother falls, and as so often happens, right? People break hips, and beyond the breaking hips, it's of course sometimes if you're alone, you fall, there's nobody there, you can be agonizing and be in pain for hours. So what did he do? Well, it turns out he is a mechanical engineering student, and when his grandmother fell and suffered that fracture and spent hours on the ground, he decided he needed to do something. So I want to give the whole thing away here, but Maxime will. Maxime Bolduc is co-founder of now the company called Azimut Medical, and he is on the line. Maxime, thanks for being here this afternoon. This is one of those stories where when you first see it, you kind of smile, and then you see the picture of the pants, and I was expecting they would be like these giant, big, inflatable pants that you created, and I'm giving something away here, but tell people what you did and why you did it in response to your grandmother having fallen.
Well, thank you for having me, Aaron. And yes, so the pants, as you mentioned, we actually designed the pants for my grandmother first because she was always telling us when she came back from her injury that she didn't want to wear anything, no watches, no jewelry, or kind of these pendants, fall alert pendants and alerts. And I said, well, maybe I can make something that would be comfortable and stylish and have some protection for her. So that was the idea, as you mentioned. As I mentioned, I'm a mechanical engineering student. I graduated, and then from there, I said, okay, well, what's the best way to prevent a hip fracture? Well, maybe the impact here would be to integrate some airbags. So we started developing this idea back in 2021. And for the past 4 years, we, gone through many different iterations of this device to arrive last year at this the inflatable trousers, like the picture in the article.
Yeah. So I love the fact, when you say inflatable trousers, as I said, you could imagine, or people would imagine one thing, and that'd be these giant pants. In fact, they're not. And I know in the article in La Presse, you actually wrote that you've worn them on a couple occasions to a lecture or something, and no one even knew that you were wearing them, right?
Yes, exactly. I wear them with a full suit, and I was pitching on an event with over 200 people there. And at the end of the event, I'm like, did you notice anything? And I pulled out the trousers. And oh wow, okay. So it's the goal was achieved. It was to be a very discreet, comfortable, and stylish trouser, and that's, I think, what we achieved.
So now the obvious thing that would pop into mind was, if this is supposed to help someone when they fall and the pants look like just normal pants, what's the mechanism in here and how does it work?
Yeah. So in the photo, it looks like a regular pair of pants, but inside, that's where the technology is. So on the inside waistband, we have this zipper. It's a long zipper that does almost 360 degrees inside, and it connects a inflatable membrane. This inflatable membrane is kind of suspended, so it's kind of like a skirt inside the trouser. And it's this membrane that has all our electronics, the technology we develop, and we have 2 patents on the technology we have developed, and it's all integrated into this membrane. And so it's the actual membrane inside the trousers which do the detection of the fall, and we kind of measure the way people are walking in real time. And once we kind of see the beginning of a fall, that's where our inflatable technology springs into action. It inflates the membrane, and so by the time you hit the ground, the membrane is fully inflated and absorbs a lot of the impact of the fall. So it's kind of this skirt inside of the trouser.
So you're basically describing an airbag in a car to some degree, right?
Yes, it's the same principle. However, car airbags are explosive devices. They are pyrotechnical devices, and they're one-time use. What we did is that we developed a technology which is non-explosive and can be reused multiple times. Because, would you want an explosive device on the hips of your 92-year-old grandmother?
Yeah, not so much.
Not me.
So this will detect, like you're walking up straight, and if it senses, or however you set this up, if it senses you're about to fall, between the time you lose your balance and the time you hit the floor, it will have deployed.
Yes, and
That's
usually
crazy.
that is around, a third of a second. So it's really quick. Falling is quick, and we have a lot of sensors that do its, acceleration, speed, angles, and we all have this kind of sensor fusion algorithm that kind of predicts when somebody is falling, because we have to deploy the airbag before you hit the ground. So technically, we don't do fall detection, because detection would be afterwards.
Right.
We do fall prediction.
Have you, I was going to say, have you used these in practice? Obviously, who did you get to try these out?
Oh, hundreds of people, actually. The basis of the design of this garment, it's in the fourth iteration. We have tested so many different prototypes, the way to do this. We also built a rig, so a test impact rig in-house that follows a new Canadian standard for testing hip protectors. And so in-house we can, iterate and develop this airbag and really kind of tune and fine-tune the absorption of this airbag. And it's, in this preliminary phase, it's over 64% more efficacious than just a regular hip protector. So the absorption of this airbag is much higher than what anything is on the market. So we have tested this many times in our laboratory, and on many we call them fallers. We invite people to the office.
Volunteer fallers, yeah, okay.
Volunteer fallers, exactly.
So listen, I want to just, before I run out of time, this is not commercially available yet, but you are scaling up to eventually get to that point, right?
That's right. So today we are not available to sell. We are aiming for a June 2026 release, so in a couple of months. And we have received, since the La Presse article, over 300 emails from interested people. So it's really a great sign.
Great.
And if you want to be a part of the early testing cohorts, you can, contact us on our website, and
Sure.
we'll be happy to that.
And who wouldn't want to be a volunteer faller, just to be able to say they were involved in the project,
Exactly.
So, yeah. By the way, last question. Now that I think of this, you mentioned off the top, like I remember my mom, she would have this sort of like smart alert or something. So if she fell, it would automatically call like 911. Do you plan to put that into this at some point, or is that just too far down the road, or was it thought about?
Yes, and that will be integrated into the second version of the garment.
Wow.
Yes, certainly. So
Okay.
it's kind of it will be all-in-one package. My hope is to essentially provide older adults and families peace of mind, and that it be almost invisible. You wear this every day, you feel great, you feel confident, you can go back outside, you can do some rehabilitation work, you can, go take a walk without the fear of injuring yourself.
That's a great idea. By the way, what happens after it deploys once? How do you get it back in place, or is it what do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's not like a car airbag. So when it deploys, you hit the ground, it kind of absorbs the impact, and it deflates by itself. It takes around a minute. And then you disconnect this cartridge. We have a removable cartridge that you can remove, and you plug a new cartridge back in, and you're ready, to go back again.
What a great idea! Listen, good for you, and the fact that so many people have been in touch obviously shows you've come up with a great idea. I wish you well, and I hope we can do this. Maybe talk next year when this thing is actually commercially released, and see touch base with you, see how it's going then. So,
it'll be a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so
Aaron.
much, Maxime. Great idea. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
There you go. The company, by the way, if you want to see it, is Azimut, like Azimuth, but without the H in French. Azimut, Azimut Medical, and you can see the pants there. Want to join us? Want to be a volunteer faller? Just show up at the lab, wear these, fall down, see how that goes. That'd be kind of fun.
Bringing you the breaking news and the people making it. Montreal Now with Aaron Rand. CJAD 800.
Time to check in with Carmi Levy. We're going to talk tech as we do every week at about this time. So, Carmi, I want to start with the story because I just love this idea. I try to picture this in my head. So the headline is Robotic Kitchen with AI Cooks and serves 120 meals an hour without any human help. Now, I know somebody listening to this headline is thinking, is this where we're heading? Eventually, is this how restaurants are going to work? So what's the story? What's the context here?
So it is a supermarket chain in Germany. They're based in Dusseldorf. It's known as Rewe, R-E-W-E, and they work with a robotics company called Circus SE. And the model, it kind of looks like a giant, very wide stove with a big window in the middle, and it's called the CA1 Series 4. And basically what it is, it's an AI-powered autonomous cooking robot. So the entire process of preparing a meal, it pulls the ingredients together, it cooks them, it mixes them, it plates them, it seasons them, and then when it's done, it cleans the thing entirely on its own. And before we assume that this is coming to our homes, because, I mean, that would really get my attention, right now it's only being piloted in 3 of their supermarkets. This is the biggest supermarket chain in Germany, but they're trying it in 3 locations. And the goal is to kind of learn from the experience and sort of see how customers respond to it. You know, most supermarkets have like an area where you can go get prepared meals,
right,
but they have staff preparing those meals. In this case, if you are a chef in one of those places, you're probably looking at this technology not very happy about it. So we can't buy it yet. We can buy the meals if we go to Germany, but it'll be interesting to see sort of what that experience looks like. Will it be reliable? Will the food taste good? Will they be able to do it cost effectively, maybe make some money at it as well? Or will the technology just be too expensive to really make a go of it? We don't know yet, but that's what pilot programs are all about.
By the way, as I try to visualize what this might be, so these robots, are there more than one? Are they working in conjunction with each other? Do we know?
No, it's an all-in-one device, and so think of this giant. It looks like a really big, very wide, very tall stove. It's about as tall as a human being, and it's about as wide as, say, 3 appliances. So it kind of sits behind the counter, and you walk, or it sits next to a counter. You walk up to it as a customer. You tell it what you want, either through voice control or there's a touch screen as well if you want to use it. And then it goes off and it makes it for you. It takes, as you said, it's about 120 of those meals per hour, so it'll take a few minutes per, and it's almost like a kind of this automated cooking device. It's got 2 robotic arms inside, so if you look through the glass, these 2 robotic arms are basically doing what a chef would do, mixing and cooking and seasoning and testing and all that good stuff. And, you know, the idea is that it delivers really good food, but it doesn't need to take a break, doesn't get tired, doesn't have an attitude, doesn't throw things in there it probably shouldn't. Hey, if that means cost-effective food at a grocery, I'm game for it. They're also considering other places where it would be beneficial, places like hospitals, universities, factories, even the military. They partnered with Ukraine. There's a defense technology program there. They want to be able to feed soldiers in the field using this technology. So it has all sorts of applications. And hopefully one day, as this advances, they get to version 2, version 3, version 4, maybe it'll get smaller and cheaper enough so that we can bring one of these home. That would be kind of cool, because I really like to eat, but I'm really not the world's best cook. So, you know, maybe in our future.
I think you got a lot of people when you said not only does it prepare the meals, but when it's done, it does all the cleanup too.
I love that.
Oh,
and of course, yeah, exactly. You had me at dishwasher.
Yeah,
no
really.
question there.
Okay. Can you see this thing? Like, where would you, if you want to go see this online just to see what it looks like, where would you go?
So the place where I found it, it's a website called Interesting Engineering. I can certainly share that with our producer, and we can throw that up on our socials. It's a cool thing to watch, and the demo video is pretty impressive. But I've learned from the tech industry, demo videos are very different from the real world. You know, in an actual grocery store staffed by actual people, will it be as reliable? Because at some point someone's got to load the ingredients in there to begin with so that it can do its thing. How does it operate in the real world? That's going to be the big test. We don't have videos for that yet.
That's a shame. All right, let's move on from that. I mentioned the story this morning because stock markets today, for people who haven't been paying attention, have been literally all over the place. NVIDIA reported earnings yesterday that blew through expectations, including, I think, a $3 billion beat. But then the markets opened today up almost 700 on the Dow. They're now down over 200. So we had about 1,000-point turnaround despite NVIDIA. I thought reassuring people that this AI bubble, you know, it's real. There's money out there. They're making it. But apparently the market didn't care today.
Yeah, there's a lot of volatility there. You know, NVIDIA was up and then it was down because I think people are still concerned. The worry in the lead up to their earnings call yesterday was that NVIDIA wouldn't beat its results. And so, and NVIDIA is kind of like the bellwether stock for the entire AI industry, the entire tech industry. If NVIDIA is doing well because everybody is buying their chips to power data centers that run AI programs. AI needs a lot of computing power. So NVIDIA is the first $5 trillion valuation company in history. It's the most valuable company in the world right now. It really is the sort of the Pied Piper of AI. And if its results were not good, people were going to freak out. So they did really well. The stocks spiked overnight. And then they kind of settled back. And I think what we're seeing here, and is similar to what we've been seeing for a while, people are still not convinced that there isn't going to be some kind of AI reckoning, that the bubble isn't about to burst soon. So the NVIDIA results showed, okay, maybe it's not going to happen now, but it might happen next quarter. It might happen a few months down the line. And I think a lot of investors are starting to say, you know what, time for me to start hedging my bets. That's why we're seeing things heading down. It isn't just NVIDIA. It's every other tech company that is following their lead.
That stock, by the way, is down another 3% today. So, Carmi, let me go to speaking of internet. Jeff Bezos is in the news. What's he doing? What is this thing called Project Prometheus?
So he's putting $6.2 billion, largely his own money, into this company, and he's going to be the CEO of it. First time he's been a CEO since he left Amazon. Of course, he is deeply involved in Blue Origin, the rocket company, but he's not their CEO. And what Project Prometheus is, it's an AI company, but it's different than OpenAI. It's different than Anthropic. It isn't making chatbots. It isn't building software. It's AI for the real world. And so they're going to work on technology that builds AI solutions for actual physical projects. So think like a medical research lab. They will build technology that essentially builds an entire lab, runs the lab, and it can do medical research at a scale that we can't do now without AI. There will be other applications like, for example, a factory for cars, using AI to optimize how fast it builds vehicles, the level of quality, to learn from the experience and keep sort of raising the bar in terms of cost and quality. And so that's sort of the thing, is that we haven't really applied AI to real-world problems so far. It's all been prompts and bots and image and video generators. And Project Prometheus is going to take that out of the virtual world and drop it right into the real world. And there are some other companies that are competing against them as well. But at the same time, they don't have the amount of money, that far less money than Jeff Bezos has put into this one. And of course, they don't have Jeff Bezos. He's got quite the track record in terms of delivering what he promises to deliver. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but this is a guy with quite some history, and I think he's definitely one to watch.
By the way, with respect to Amazon, my producer, Brian, was telling me, he gave me an article today that Amazon, and I think they'd announced this a while ago, and we didn't hear really much, but they're announcing now, you will soon be able to buy a used car from Ford on Amazon directly without going through a dealer.
Yeah, and this is, and you realize dealers are not owned by the car companies. They're independent businesses, and they're in fact the biggest customers of the car companies. Tesla very famously blew that model up. When you go to a Tesla dealership, that's actually Tesla owned, but that's the exception. And so for Ford to be striking this deal with Amazon, originally it was just for used cars, but it looks like it's going to include new cars as well. That is a massive change to the way the industry works, and it really does show that Amazon has finally muscled the car industry into doing something it spent decades fighting against. Will this lead to better prices and better service? Hard to tell, but it's interesting to see the model being broken, and at least consumers now have another choice.
Amazing, huh? And eventually, I guess they say now, from the story that I read, you'd still have to go pick it up at your dealer, but it's only obviously a matter of time before you can just have it, I guess, delivered right to your door, like everything else with Amazon. So it's going to be
that's what technology does. It disrupts, and Amazon originally sold books, but
there you go.
It was destined that eventually they would grow way beyond that. Here's where we are.
I'm waiting. The next one I think that Amazon begins to move into, and I don't know if they've done it already, and that's travel.
What?
The idea that you can just go and they will book, lowest price, lowest this, airfare, the whole deal. That's one place they've not gone, but I imagine that's an area they're probably looking at. So we should see.
And I will predict now they will be using AI heavily to make that happen. Things like AI agents to book your trip for you. You tell it what you want, and it goes off and it does that. Amazon has the scale and the technology and the experience to make that happen.
Carmi Levy, taking a look at tech. Carmi, thanks so much.
I'm Luke Wilson. Join me each week for Film Never Lies. We're going in depth on football and a lot more. We'll pull back the curtain on life in the pros and dive deeper into the stories making the headlines. No hot takes, no lazy narratives, just real honest conversations. You can watch or listen to Film Never Lies on all the TSN platforms and iHeartRadio app.
The very latest news, reported and discussed. Welcome back to Montreal Now on CJAD 800.
So this is not a story you see every day, huh? Turns out if you got some toenails and you're thinking, yeah, okay, it's a big deal. If I said to you that they have something or could potentially have something to do with cancer or recognizing cancer, specifically lung cancer, would that pique your interest? Yeah, well, that's the story, as it turns out. A team of researchers from the University of Calgary wants your toenail clippings, but it's not creepy. They actually want to do it for what I'm just saying here. They want to analyze those clippings and look into the possibility of cancer. So let's try to find out more. Dr. Aaron Goodarzi is a professor of biochemistry at the University of Calgary in their School of Medicine. He's on the line. Doctor, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. Look, it's a strange headline, as I said, right? People might look at this and go, wait a sec, what? But from what I read in the story, right, and this concerns radon, people have heard of radon. We know that it's something that you can't smell, you can't see. And it turns out radon is the leading cause of lung cancer among non-smokers. How does this tie into that?
So, thank you. Yeah, it is a bit of a weird story, but it kind of makes sense once you reflect on what radon does once we breathe it in. And basically what happens then is the radon emits radiation. That's what damages the cells of your lungs, increasing risk of cancer. But then it precipitates. And it precipitates and very quickly becomes radioactive lead. And your body then treats that just like it does any lead and tries to get rid of it. It's not very good at doing it, which is why lead is so toxic. But it tries to get rid of it. And it does so by putting it in our skin, our hair, and our nails, which are slowly shed. And so we've been looking at using toenail clippings as a measure of someone's long-term radon exposure.
And so you're actually asking people to clip those toenails, send them in, and you've obviously, gotten requests or at least, information people have been looking for as to what happens to it after the fact. So what do you do with this once you get them?
So we're asking actually two things. People have to collect their toenails over 4 months, and at the same time perform a radon test in their house, because we need to know both pieces of information for this validation trial. So if people are eligible, all they have to do is have healthy toenails and have lived in their house for at least 5 years. Otherwise, first come, first serve in different regions of Canada. Then at the end of that, after the 4 months, they'll post those in to us in little baggies. What happens to the toenails then? Essentially, we liquefy them in acid, put them over a mass spectrometer, and then measure the amount of radioactive lead. And we'll correspond that with the known amount of radon from their house. And the point of this is to validate whether this is a useful tool in order to measure someone's long-term radon exposure. Why we're doing that is for lung cancer screening. We want to be able to screen people for lung cancer on the basis of radon exposure, something that can't yet be done.
So I mentioned just a moment ago, so the estimate, right, is 1 in 5 Canadian homes have dangerous levels of radon. But the problem, of course, is most people are unaware. As I said, you can't smell it, you can't see it, whatever. So I'm wondering now, someone sends in the toenail clippings, they meet the criteria that are necessary here, and what happens after that? You compare the toenail clippings to what the existing level of radon is in their house, and what the lead level in the toenail clippings is the tip-off?
That's right. Specifically the radioactive lead. There's only one way really we can encounter radioactive lead, and that is via radon exposure. So although we do look at the total amount of lead, it's the amount of radioactive lead that we found in a pilot project indicates someone's long-term radon exposure. And you're absolutely right. No Canadian functionally has a valid radon test from every indoor air environment they've been in the past 20 years. But that's the information you need in order to figure out if someone's been exposed or not. And that's what we're hoping to then use to get people into lung cancer screening if they need it.
So you mentioned it. So people wonder, first of all, why toenails and not like fingernails, for example?
Great question. So two reasons, really. The first is simple. Our fingers and hands, they see a lot more stuff day to day, food, cleaning products, workplace things, and people are far more likely to attach cosmetics to those than their toenails. Second, so we don't want to have all those variables. We want to simplify the equation as we do our science. Second, though, our toenails actually grow slower than our fingernails. You probably noticed you cut your toenails probably half as frequently
Right.
as you might do your fingernails. Because they grow slower, they're a better readout of your long-term exposure. So for those two reasons, we went with the toenails and not the fingernails.
Yeah, and it's mentioned in the article as well. This is interesting. You kind of look at a toenail like the rings of a tree, right? It tells you a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long-term readout of things that we've been exposed to. I mean, other folks have used toenails, for example, to look at long-term arsenic exposure as a readout for someone who've been exposed to that. So yeah, our nails, in this case our toenails, really can be a very good readout because that is how our body is slowly trying to get rid of these nasty things that we've encountered in our environment. And of course, compared to the other stuff, I always joke with my students that it's better than the red stuff, the yellow stuff, or the brown stuff. Toenails are easy, cheap, convenient in order to analyze. In this case, it's actually the ideal thing, so it makes it all the better.
What's been reaction so far to this?
Amazing. Canadians have really come out to support this. We're looking for 10,000 people to consent to participate in this work, so get a radon test and send in their toenails. We're about 7,000 down out of 10,000, so we have 3,000 to go. And so, yeah, it's going really well.
I would ask as well, let's say, you get done all this work and, you eventually come up with an answer as to, what it is you're looking at. What happens to that person who then, you're not going to know whose nails are who, are you?
Absolutely, yeah.
You will,
so
okay.
Although that is all kept absolutely private, of course we have to track everything about that, the activity pattern, so how much time that person spends at home,
right,
as well as the radon level in order to then correlate what's lead in their toenails to their known radiation exposure from radon gas. And if it all works, if this works, we can then report back to that person what there is. If it doesn't work in the way we would like, we wouldn't report back because it wouldn't be considered, in that case, clinically informative. But if it does work, and it is clinically informative, this would mark the beginning of a new phase in Canadian lung cancer risk reduction, in this case, early screening.
Is the government involved or Health Canada involved with you in this, or are you doing this on your own?
So this is a project supported by a $5 million grant by the Canadian Cancer Society.
Okay.
We do certainly work closely with Health Canada and other organizations about all the stuff we do with radon. And so this is a project that involves multiple universities from across Canada and supported by many a good agency, of course, thanks to the Canadian Cancer Society for this.
Yeah, I would, by the way, just point out at the end of it, when I said individually, like, let's say someone listening now decides they want to go ahead, and I'll ask you to, tell them how to do that in a second. But the idea would be, in order to even sort of qualify, you mentioned number one, you would have to have a radon test done in your home so that you could, when you do the analysis, eventually say, well, based on what we see in your radon test and based on what we see in your toenails, here's what's going on. So there's a benefit, by the way, to getting involved, just because at least at the outset, you are going to be told about the radon levels in your own home.
Absolutely, yeah. All participants will be that are eligible will be sent a radon test at no cost. The condition there, of course, is they have to spend 4 months collecting every toenail clipping they produce in that time.
Okay.
Send both of those back to us. They will absolutely get the household radon reading that their test shows. And then, of course, they get the aggregate results of the whole project.
Right.
In terms of how much lead we find in everyone's toenails, although no one will be identified.
No.
So privacy will absolutely be guaranteed, and each individual will get the household radon test that their test shows.
I'm kind of smiling, thinking, really, I don't have a big concern with people knowing what are my what's in my toenails, but that's fine. It's no one's business, I guess. When you say you're sending out a test as part of this, what's involved in that? Is that just leaving something around your home to collect data? What is it?
Yeah, that's right. So it looks like a little hockey puck or an ant trap. You just pop it out of a vacuum-sealed plastic bag. Again, it's no bigger than a hockey puck, and you're going to put that in the lowest level of the house that someone spends at least 4 hours a day.
Okay.
Personally, I love bedside tables. We spend an awful lot of time sleeping in our bedrooms, and so that's a great place to place the radon test. All you do is pop it out the bag and leave it alone for 4 months. While you go on with your life, and then every time you collect your toenails, which is typically once every 30 days for most people, you're just going to pop those clippings in the baggies, and then you're going to send 4 baggies back to us, once for every month of the test, and they all come back to us at the same time, just via the post. So, you don't have to do anything or go anywhere other than receive it in the post, deploy it, and then send it back in the post.
So for people listening, if they want to get involved, what do they do?
They go to evictradon.org, and if you go to that website, you're going to see something, a little big bar there that says Test My Home. that'll click out to our 3 opportunities right now. The usual one is our citizen science. But the toenail study literally says toenail study on it. So click on that. You'll fill out the eligibility criteria. Basically, you got to have lived in your house for a minimum of 5 years. You have to have healthy toenails, and the house can't have been previously mitigated for radon, can't have been fixed for radon. We want to look at houses that are otherwise nobody knows what the radon is in there. We also have another opportunity for people experiencing disability that's separate. But you'll find all of that at evictradon.org.
Looking at it right now, evictradon.org is the site. Doctor, I want to thank you for your time this afternoon. This is great. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. All the best.
You bet. You too. So there you go. Hang on to your toenail clippings. Keep them for a month. You get a free radon test and just find out if where you're living is okay. I think this is great. Good for them.
Because you don't want to miss a thing. Montreal Now on CJAD 800.
So we all know, of course, it's getting more and more expensive to shop at the grocery store. Things have not, in fact, gone down. Remember, we did a story the other day suggesting that, of all the items when you go grocery shopping, hard to believe, but coffee leads the list for things that have increased the most over the past year. But that's not the focus of our next story. The focus is the fact that too many of us, and I know we've discussed this before, because I have a very bad habit of eating foods that already say they, have gone bad. I'm sorry. No, they're best before. And that's why we're discussing this. So it turns out a new study estimates that Quebec households waste $600 a year on food, with half of that loss linked to confusion over just that, best before dates. Sylvain Charlebois, you've heard him here. He is, of course, known as the food professor, senior director at Agri-Food analytics over at the university, Dalhousie University in Halifax, and he's on the line. Sylvain, thank you for coming back. Let me just deal, because I liked your line about, you know what, and it's so simple. Best before does not directly mean bad after. Explain.
Well, the date itself is not based on science. It's just based on when the product actually left the production line. The best before date applies for products that can be, for which the conservation period is no longer than 90 days. So it is really just a point of reference, of course the industry will want you and I to consume food at its optimal state. So obviously freshness and quality may change after that date, but these products are still edible. Now, of course, there is a difference between unopened packages and open packages. As soon as you open a package, as soon as a food product is exposed to air, that will likely accelerate the degrading process for any food at all. So that's something you want to be paying attention to.
Say that last part again. Paying attention to what?
If a product is open or not, if a product is exposed to oxygen and air. So people have been asking me, well, what about meat and what about different products? Of course, if those products are exposed to air, that will reduce significantly the conservation period for that product.
Okay, but I mean, so I'm going to ask the question then. Let's say you start off with a piece of chicken, right? So, and I guess animal protein is different because it's not necessarily easy to tell it's gone bad. But if you start eating it and then you don't finish it and you wrap it up, either in aluminum foil or plastic wrap, it's been exposed to air, but you've now covered it up. Does that buy you more time?
It will buy you more time. And of course, what we recommend people is to rely on your senses, essentially. So you can look at the piece. If it's in your fridge, it's been in your fridge for a couple of weeks, for example, look at it. You can smell it. If something is not off, then you can either taste it, and if everything is still okay, then you're good to go. But with animal proteins, you don't want to stretch it too much. But what we're finding out in our studies that a lot of people, as soon as they see a best before day, past that day, a day after, they just throw it away, no questions asked, and that's really the big problem.
You know, you mentioned off the top that, of course, there's no real sort of basic science here involved in when that date goes on. You said manufacturers want you to have food at its optimal, time. And I thought to myself, wrongly perhaps, they'd also like you to keep buying food, right? The longer you keep it, the less likely you are to go back and buy another item of that particular brand. So is there some kind of regulation you're asking perhaps be changed or modified that we could reconsider best before dates?
Well, it's more about awareness, really. Yes, I would say that there's been some abusive cases, I guess, in the past. Because I've seen best before dates on salt and sugar and honey.
Really?
Wow. It was a bit ridiculous. And frankly, to me, best before dates sometimes they've been used to foster this plant obsolescence strategy that we see in other sectors of the economy. So best before dates can actually be seen as a way to plan obsolescence in food. You're absolutely right. And so, but what we're trying to, the message we're trying to convey to the public is that, don't take these dates as law. I mean, it's important that you are allowed to rely on your senses to evaluate risks. Now, not everyone can do that. Of course, if you have a compromised immune system, you got to be careful. If you have children at home, if you have a senior at home, you want to be a little bit careful here. So it really depends who you are.
Well, let's say you don't fall into those categories, and I'm going to just tell you from my point of view, and I know you mentioned in the piece that I read, you mentioned yogurt. So I will occasionally buy yogurt. You have some, and then it ends up on a shelf. It's in the back of the fridge. The next time you find it again or you're looking for it, even though it's been opened, and I've had some, right? I have some Greek yogurt in my fridge, coffee-flavored Greek yogurt like Liberty, and the best before date was, I believe, in June. It's been opened. I opened it the other day, and I looked at it. And, of course, if there's no mold on top, I assume, it could be okay. And then I kind of stirred it around. Then I did what you're suggesting. Now I took a smell, and it's, you know what? It smells exactly the same as when I first had it, so I ate it, and I'm still alive today.
There you go. It was probably a little liquidy, wasn't it?
Yes, it was on top. You're right.
Yeah, so, again, you probably stirred it, and everything was fine.
And that's okay, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, basically, if you consider these dates as non-negotiable, you're throwing away money, essentially. But if you're flexible and you use your senses and your health is okay, you can actually save quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting, and neither are you, I know, that we should be doing this with everything in the fridge. You mentioned number one for meat, for fish, for that kind of stuff. No, I mean, the thing about fish, for example, you leave it in there too long, you're going to know it's no good. It will smell fairly quickly. But for other things, don't be scared off. You have a campaign on this. What's it called?
It's called Smell, Look, Smell, Taste. Okay. That's the Too Good To Go campaign.
So is this going to be on food? Like, how's the message getting across to Canadians?
Well, I mean, by way of these studies, I mean, we're getting people to talk about it. In fact, actually, I'm quite pleasantly surprised to see so many journalists and media paying attention to this study. I think we've conducted probably well over 40 interviews for this study in the last 24 hours. So it's great. I mean, the word is out. The word's coming out. And Christmas is just around the corner, and people are struggling with food prices. But at the same time, you want to save as much money as possible.
Yeah,
so that's one way to do it.
I think the interest for media is because we're all people who consume the product as well, right? So it's as interesting for us as it is for everybody else listening, going, I had no idea you could do that.
The key thing here is that a lot of people just don't understand these dates, where they're coming from, and there is zero science. That's
crazy.
The important part.
You think that'd be the first thing you'd want to consider changing, or the government or Health Canada, somebody would consider changing that as well to, in fact, involve science in that.
Well, there is some debate out there saying, well, we should eliminate best before dates because they lead to confusion. But we actually did survey Canadians last year about this issue, and only 27% of Canadians actually would want these dates to disappear. The reason why I'm not sure it's a good idea is that we all go to the grocery store to buy food, but we also buy time. So I'm sure you've seen people going through milk cartons looking at dates because you're buying time. Because at home, things happen. You need to leave the house for a couple of days and come back. You want inventory in your fridge and in your cupboard. So without these dates, you can't do that. So I certainly understand why people want to stick to these dates.
But not to have them eliminated, as you said. By the way, milk, now that you mentioned milk, that's another easy one too, right? Because if it's been sitting there and you're not really not sure, and it's beyond the best before date, when you pour it, if it comes out, as a lump, your milk has gone bad. That's an easy one to tell as well. How do I know that? I don't know. I know that.
If you open up the fridge and something walks out,
that's right. That's a bad sign.
That's
is a bad sign. Absolutely. All right. All these things to keep in mind. Sylvain, always appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You bet. So remember, that's what I love about this story. It's so simple. Best before does not mean bad after. Keep that in mind. Smell, taste, look, as he said, that's their campaign. Save yourself some money. Let's face it, food is getting more and more expensive. If you can eat food and it's still good, even beyond the best before date, eat it. You don't have to buy it again. Spend more money and throw something out. It just doesn't make sense.
Introducing Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
Join me for an insider look on a wild ride through 40 years of global rock and roll.
Bryan Adams Radio. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Or ask your smart speaker to play Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio.
Who's ready to rock?
Bringing you the breaking news and the people making it. Montreal Now with Aaron Rand. CJAD 800.
We've talked a lot about scams, and there are all kinds of them out there. We talked about, of course, earlier in the week, and I guess last week as well, about a couple that you have to watch out for. One today involved Facebook Marketplace. But as you head into the holiday season, there's a whole new area to have to watch out for: holiday season scams. So Larry Zelvin is Executive Vice President, Head of Financial Crimes Unit at the BMO Financial Group, and he is on the line. Larry, thanks for being here this afternoon. And let me begin by asking, when I said that, and suddenly you have to frame it as holiday season scams, what's the differentiation here?
Well, the differentiation is while you have to worry about these things every day, it gets a lot worse this time of year. And look, the reason being is more and more people are online buying things. So, the market for the fraudsters is like at its max capacity. And the other thing is they also get to refine their attempts to get to you by knowing that you're holiday shopping. So you're going to see more emails, you're going to see texts, you're going to see phone calls in ways to entice you based on your desire to buy gifts for people you love and care about.
Yeah, and of course, I would imagine, I'm seeing this in the report, AI, something we talk about pretty regularly here. That's another thing you have to consider, because I guess that actually makes fraud harder to detect.
It makes it so much harder, and also lowers the bar for people who are trying to get into this space. You had to have some technology skills in order to do these things, right? You had to craft emails, you had to lists, and so on and so forth. Well, I'm sure everybody's used AI in some form, ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, whatever the case. But all you have to do is just ask AI, hey, I want to create emails based on holiday scams. Who are the best people? And within seconds, they get it. So it has lowered the bar. It has made it so much easier, and also the credibility of this. Like if we had this conversation 2 or 3 years ago, I'd offer a bunch of things by look at misspellings or look at this, that, and the other thing. AI has fixed all those problems. So you're going to have to be vigilant in different ways.
But so the vigilance in reading this story is actually quite frightening, right? First of all, as you said, it used to be in the old days, you'd look at a return email address, you could see something just looked fishy. Now, by virtue of AI, as you're outlining it, you got to watch out for things like fake retailer websites. So it looks like the real deal, but it's not. This is a big one.
Yeah, so I hate to break this to you. You got to do both, right?
Oh, no.
Not everything is AI enabled, right? So you still need to do all that. Look at your websites. And, the other thing I tell folks is just watch those QR codes. QR codes are very convenient, but also for the bad actors. In some cases, like when you go to restaurants or bars, they'll put a different QR. Like if you see anything that's taped on, that should be an instant alert of don't scan that. They'll also do it outside of, sometimes on street corners and other places you see QR codes. The problem is everybody just clicks. Nobody looks at the link to see if it's actually attaching to something. So then it will take you to many cases an AI-generated website or another application, and then they've really got you. So yeah, you still need to be vigilant that way. But when it comes to AI, you're going to have to look at it in a different way, such as especially during the holiday season. If you're getting a deal that seems too good to be true, it probably is, right? If it's a deep discount, you really need to be vigilant. You also need to watch when they have a sense of urgency, like buy now or within an hour, and look, some of those stuff is legitimate, but in many cases it's not. So just be very wary. And then the last thing I'll say, and I'm not anti-TikTok or any other social media, but if you're going to buy something off of a non-traditional website or application, really slow down, because it's easier for them to commit the frauds on those spaces. So just be wary.
I want to go back to what you said about QR codes. I mean, you're right. They're ubiquitous now. I don't even know how you would check it, because if you just look at one, it says open in whatever your browser is, and there you go. So how do you, in fact, check to see it's legit?
So you got to look a little bit more closely. There actually will be a URL line underneath. So you've got to be so look at that. So before you click on it, actually look and make sure that's what you're clicking on is actually related to where you're going. And again, you're going to check it just like you would any other website.
Okay. I'm not sure that's as easy as you make it seem.
Oh, no, it's not, because here's the thing, especially my eyes are failing as I get older. So, look, I think my best advice is unless you have confidence in that I don't scan QR codes myself just because I know the fraud and the potential, but I don't want to scare everybody away. But at the same token, if it's something like inducing like shopping or anywhere that you would have to give your credit card, your debit card, or personal information, you really, really need to make sure that those QR codes are reliable.
We'll just go to the website instead. All right, well, I want to talk about this other thing that you note, which is called digital pickpocketing. We know what pickpocketing is. What does digital pickpocketing mean?
Well, it's similar, but a bit different. So, this is going to scare people, and I don't want people to be overreacting. But at the end of the day, there is technology that if you get very close proximity, like in a train station and perhaps on a bus or in a crowded restaurant or mall, there are technologies out there that allow people to steal your digital wallet off of your phone, but they have to be very close to you. In some cases, they bump. So you just need to be very careful if all of a sudden somebody's like really close and it's very awkward and you're like, you're going to have to use your spidey sense. But look, this is not happening at scale, but it is happening and people need to be aware. And then if you go up, you're really afraid of this threat, there are some things you can buy to protect your phone, but we just want to let people know it's out there, but please don't overreact to it.
How would you know if it happened to you before you saw a fraudulent charge even come up? I mean, would you have some kind of how would you know?
You probably wouldn't. That's the scary part, right? You would have to see all these fraudulent charges and go, oh my gosh, how did this happen? How did they get my credit card number? How did this? And then so you'll start seeing these materialize and only to learn that they was actually compromised off your phone. But at the end of the day, what you will do is the same as if it was your credit card, if it was lost any other way. And that's called your financial institution, call law enforcement, et cetera.
By the way, I should point out, if you're just walking around, you're in a mall, and this is where this kind of stuff happens, you say, right, in crowds, then obviously the idea would be carry your phone, I guess, if you could. Beyond your pocket, that's apparently not good enough. You need to carry it in a pouch or something like that. Would that make a difference?
It does, but it's got to be the right pouch. But unfortunately, that's where we're going. So as these things become more and more used by fraudsters, that unfortunately we may be walking around with our phone in an envelope in our pocket or our purse or wherever you carry your phone.
Okay, this is all good news. How about this one here? You also advise if you're paying by card, credit cards better to pay with than debit cards, for example. What's the concern here?
Instant payment. So if you use your debit card, and I'm not anti-debit card, but if you're going to do something and you're concerned, your credit card would be better. Same thing with using things like Interac, any instant payment systems. Cryptocurrency is another one that is instant. So, look, if you're concerned over the holiday season or just year-round and going, oh my gosh, if I had a fraud problem, I need to call my bank, I need to call whatever financial institution I'm dealing with. If you use a credit card, if you use potentially some wires, it's a slower process, so we have the ability to help you with the recall. But if you use those instant payment systems, it's gone. There's no way to recall.
And is the idea as well, I guess this would make sense, right? A lot of people just, tap their phone to pay. Your credit card information is on your phone. Do you advise against doing that as well?
I don't. As a matter of fact, I do that myself. I actually think it's in some ways a more secure way of interacting, because here's the thing, especially with certain, I'll just say Apple, there's a high level of security. It may actually be more secure than in some cases actually giving somebody your credit card and putting it into a machine that is compromised and actually goes to fraudsters. So no, I'm not anti-tapping, but you need to be careful, as I said, as we're talking about digital pickpocketing, but that's the only real threat of your phone right now.
Okay, but then I think back to what you said about digital pickpocketing a minute ago. So if you already have that credit card information on your phone, even though it might be more convenient and safer at the end, is that what they're actually going to steal from you if they happen to do that?
So and again, it's not overly being used, but there is technology out there that could take that digital card off of your phone so they can use it. But again, my bigger concern from a fraud perspective would be if you use your credit card and you're at a place that is their machine has been compromised, that has a higher probability of you having a fraudulent interaction than actually that digital pickpocketing.
All right, we'll leave it at that. I think we scared everyone now. I thank you so much, Mr. Zelvin. Appreciate the time.
My pleasure. And folks, please enjoy the holiday. Don't be overly concerned, but you need to be vigilant. So best of luck out there, and thank you very much for your ability to talk with you today.
Always good advice. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Take care.
This has been the Montreal Now Podcast
Listen live on your radio, weekday afternoons from 2 to 6.
on CJAD 800.
Or through the iHeartRadio app.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
You gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.